for more on trade relations between the U.S. and Canada, we have Gordon Houlden, I should say. He joins us from Penticton, British Columbia. He's a former Canadian diplomat and professor and Director Emeritus of the University of Alberta's China Institute. First of all, great having you. Second, trade talks with Canada are terminated according to Trump. Was this really an inevitable collapse or just the latest show in Washington?
Well, thank you, Diego. I would see it more as the latest iteration of the rocky trade negotiations with the United States. This is not the first time, it's not the second, it's not even the third time that the Americans, in particular President Trump, has sort of brought the negotiations to a screeching halt. We're not the only country that's been suffering this on-again, off-again approach by Donald Trump. Everything is a very personal transaction with him, and hence no one should really be particularly surprised if in the course of a night on his Truth Social posturing, we see this sort of kicking out. Now for Canada, it's a big, big deal because almost 80% of our exports go to the United States, but it's not a small thing for the United States either. Yeah. Canada's the #2 trading partner of the United States, and we are the #1 taker of American exports. So it's problematic, but it's part of a long-term pattern over the past 9 months.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm understanding your analysis correctly, right? Because if your neighbor writes bad ads about you and you cancel a trade treaty over it, do you consider that like diplomacy or just a tantrum?
I think it's more in the category of a tantrum. The question can be raised, however, knowing what we know about Donald Trump's thin skin and his antipathy to any criticism, however indirect, it might not have been the wisest thing to run advertisements in the United States critical of his policies. He is facing a critical Supreme Court hearing shortly, which will examine the legality of these tariffs without the involvement of Congress, without approval of Congress. So realistically, was it the smartest thing? Perhaps not, to make that sort of public diplomacy. But I don't think that Canada's prepared to back down at this point. Americans know where we stand. We know where they stand.
Exactly. This is what I want to ask you. So Canada says it won't let the U.S. trample its market, but who's really playing tough here, Ottawa or Washington? Well,
quite frankly, I think the stakes are so high for both countries. I think both countries are quite serious about this. There are over 20 states that of the United States that have Canada as the #1 trading partner. So for many, many states in the Midwest, in the Northeast, in the West, and even in the South, this is a really important issue. And for Canada, it is primordial. We are deeply dependent, perhaps too dependent, on the United States market. So I think both countries have no choice to take this seriously. This is not the Argentina-U.S. relationship or the Malaysia-U.S. relationship. This is their #2 trading partner. And so I'd argue that both parties are treating this very seriously. The difference is with Trump, it becomes very personal and very much a zigzag effort where it's hard to know exactly where you stand and you have to expect the unexpected.
And how much does this stunt maybe hurt American farmers and Canadian factories? And who do you see really paying the price here?
Well, unfortunately, from the Canadian perspective, the U.S. ability to hurt us is greater than the other way around. That's just the physics of size. We're more dependent on that. But there are millions and millions of American jobs that are dependent upon trade with Canada. And there are individual states, as I mentioned, who will potentially be deeply hurt. So I think both sides can suffer. We may suffer more in Canada, but if this goes on, if there's no resolution, many Americans and many American companies will pay a price as well.
I see. Gordon Houlden, thank you for your time and insights.